My wife cheated with our best friend, then suddenly claimed she had been secretly saving $250, $0 behind my back, only to find out she'd been draining our joint account and hiding property deeds. Now she's threatening to take everything in court, and I don't know who to trust anymore. I never thought I'd end up here, honestly. My life was supposed to be simple, married to Emily, a woman I loved, or at least thought I did. We had a decent life, a nice house, and a routine that felt comfortable. But then, out of nowhere, everything started to fall apart. It all came crashing down in a way I never saw coming. One night, I found out she'd been cheating on me with our best friend, Jake. That alone was a punch to the gut, but it wasn't even the worst part. Turns out, Emily had been hiding some serious money from me too, $250, she claimed she'd been secretly saving behind my back. That was just the start of the chaos. It started with small things. She'd been acting weird, more distant, more irritable. She'd come home late, smell like perfume I didn't recognize, and brush off my questions like I was bothering her. I noticed her phone was always locked and she'd get defensive if I tried to look at it. That's when I started to suspect something was up. I didn't want to believe it, but I had this gut feeling that she was hiding something. I was trying to ignore it, telling myself that maybe I was just paranoid. But then I saw her phone one day when she was in the shower. There were messages, flirty, explicit messages between her and Jake. They weren't just friends talking, it was clear they had something more. I felt my stomach drop and my hands shake. I couldn't believe it. My wife, my best friend, together behind my back. I confronted her that night. I was furious, trembling with rage and heartbreak. I threw her phone on the bed and demanded answers. Emily, of course, denied everything at first. She called me crazy, said I was imagining things, that I was paranoid and jealous. She even had the nerve to say I was overreacting, that Jake was just a friend and I was insecure. But I wasn't stupid. I knew what I saw and I knew what I felt. The way she looked at Jake when she thought I wasn't watching, like she was in love with him. She told me I was crazy for even suspecting her, that she loved me, and that I was just imagining things because I was insecure. She said I was overreacting, that I was ruining our marriage over nothing. But that's when the shock hit me even harder. Because after we argued, Emily suddenly claimed she'd been secretly saving money, $250, she said, behind my back. She said she'd been planning to leave me, that she didn't want me to know because she thought I'd stop her. She threw it in my face like a weapon, claiming she'd been saving it for years and that I had no right to question her. She said she was tired of living in a suffocating marriage and wanted her freedom, that she was done pretending everything was fine. I was stunned. I couldn't believe she was throwing money in my face like that, like she had it all planned out behind my back. It was a huge blow, but I still didn't know the full extent of what she'd done. That's when I started digging. I knew she'd been acting strange with the finances lately, more secretive, withdrawing money without telling me. I checked the bank statements and sure enough there were withdrawals, big ones. And then I found out she'd been draining our joint account little by little, hiding the money in different accounts, and even transferring some into property deeds in her name alone. I couldn't believe she'd gone this far. She'd lied so much, twisted everything to make herself look innocent. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious all at once. How could she do this to me? How could she lie about everything, cheat, steal from us, and then threaten to take everything in court? I was left with a storm of questions and no clear answers. But I knew one thing: this wasn't going to end quietly. I was done being the fool. After I uncovered all of this, my mind was racing. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her with Jake. Those messages, her lying face, the way she had betrayed me so openly. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs. I was blindsided, and honestly, I felt like a damn idiot for not seeing it sooner. I had trusted her completely, built my life around her, and now I realized she'd been playing me all along. The worst part wasn't just the affair. It was the way she'd been secretly planning her escape, hiding money, and even trying to manipulate me into thinking I was crazy. I decided I had to confront her again, face to face, and get some answers. I set up a meeting at our house, knowing she'd be there. When she walked in, she looked so confident, so bitchy, like she owned the place. She had that smug smile, the one that made me want to punch her. I didn't hold back. I told her I knew everything, the affair, the money, the property deeds she'd been hiding. Her reaction was priceless. She scoffed, rolled her eyes, and said I was overreacting, that I was just jealous and insecure. She told me I was imagining things, that she loved me and the affair was just a mistake, like that somehow made it okay. I wasn't buying it. I pressed her harder. I reminded her of the money she had stashed away, the property deeds in her name, the way she drained our account. That's when she got defensive. Started yelling and accused me of controlling her, of not trusting her. She called me paranoid, said I was making this all up because I was insecure. That's when I saw her true colors, bitchy, manipulative, and completely self-absorbed. She wasn't remorseful, not even a little. Instead, she was furious that I'd found out, furious that I was threatening to take everything away from her. That confrontation was a turning point. I realized she had zero intention of ending her manipulative game. She was trying to gaslight me, make me doubt myself. But I wasn't falling for it anymore. I could see her for what she was, a selfish, lying, cheating woman who had been plotting her escape while pretending everything was perfect. I left that night feeling more alone than ever, but also more determined. I knew I had to do something about the money, the property, and her threats. I started to gather evidence, screenshots, bank statements, everything I could find. I knew she'd try to spin it around, but I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Emotionally, I was wrecked. Part of me wanted to believe she'd come clean, that maybe she was just confused or caught up in some moment of weakness. But deep down, I knew she was a liar and I couldn't trust her anymore. Every time I looked at her, I saw a stranger, someone capable of betrayal I had never imagined. I felt anger, sadness, betrayal, like my entire world was collapsing around me. It was a brutal reality check, and I knew I had to decide whether to fight for this marriage or cut my losses. But one thing was clear: I wouldn't be the fool anymore. I was done being played. After that confrontation, I knew I had to act quickly. I couldn't just sit around and let her keep pulling the strings. She was threatening to take everything: our house, the savings, the property, everything we'd built together. And honestly, I didn't trust her to play fair. I started talking to a lawyer, trying to figure out what legal options I had. It was a mess. I was trying to piece together her hidden assets, the property deeds in her name, the bank accounts she'd opened without my knowledge. Every new discovery only made me angrier. How could she be so calculating, so manipulative? It felt like I was fighting a war I didn't even know I was in. Meanwhile, Emily kept up her game. She was still acting bitchy, throwing accusations at me, trying to paint herself as the victim. She'd say I was controlling, that I was paranoid, that she'd never cheat if I wasn't so insecure. But I knew the truth. I had proof now, screenshots of those messages, bank statements showing the withdrawals, the property deeds in her name. I kept everything organized, ready for whatever legal battle was coming. I also started to secretly record her when she was talking about the money or threatening me. I wanted to be prepared for her lies, her attempts to turn things around. One night, I caught her trying to transfer more money into a different account. I saw the email confirmations and immediately called my lawyer. We froze her accounts, filed for an emergency injunction. That's when she really lost it. She went ballistic, calling me every name under the sun, accusing me of trying to ruin her, of controlling her, of being the bad guy. She said she'd fight me in court, that she'd take everything she could, and that she'd ruin me if she had to. Her words echoed in my head, threatening, bitter, full of venom. It was clear she was prepared to go to any lengths to protect her lies and her new life. Meanwhile, I couldn't help feeling a strange mix of relief and despair. Relief that I'd finally uncovered her lies, but despair knowing what that meant for us. I still loved her, or at least I thought I did, but I couldn't ignore the fact that she'd betrayed me so badly. It was like waking up from a nightmare. I kept wondering how I'd missed all the signs, how I'd been so blind to her manipulations. I felt betrayed, not just by her, but also by Jake, who had been my best friend. How did I not see that he'd been so willing to hurt me? Trust was shattered, and I was left trying to rebuild my sense of reality. I started to question everything: our memories, the good times, the trust I thought we shared. I wondered if I'd ever be able to look at her the same way again. Every conversation, every moment now felt tainted. I was angry at her for hiding so much, for lying to my face, for trying to take everything I had worked for. But at the same time, I felt a deep sadness, like I'd lost someone I once loved, someone I thought I knew. The pain was almost unbearable, but I knew I had no choice but to fight for what was rightfully mine. I couldn't let her walk away with everything, especially not after all the lies. I had to stand my ground no matter how much it hurt. The days that followed were a blur of lawyer meetings, financial audits, and endless sleepless nights. I spent hours poring over bank statements, property documents, and her phone records, trying to piece together just how deep her deception ran. Every new piece of evidence made me angrier. She'd been draining our joint account little by little for months, hiding the money in offshore accounts, transferring deeds into her name alone. It was like she had planned this whole thing for a long time. The worst part was knowing she was capable of lying so convincingly, playing the innocent victim while secretly plotting her escape. She kept up her act, though. Emily was still bitchy, still trying to throw blame my way. She'd call me paranoid, accuse me of controlling her, say I was just jealous of her success or her freedom. She'd look me dead in the eye and lie through her teeth, claiming she'd never cheated, never drained our savings, never planned to leave. But I had proof: screenshots, bank withdrawals, property deeds, and I wasn't about to let her manipulate me anymore. Every time she yelled, called me insecure, or tried to guilt-trip me, I'd just calmly show her the evidence. That only made her more furious, but I knew I had to stay focused. One night, I caught her red-handed trying to transfer more money into a different account. I was on my laptop, watching her activity, and saw her enter her login details on a secret portal. I immediately called my lawyer and we took swift action, frozen her bank accounts, filed for an emergency court order. That was when she really lost her temper. She screamed, slammed doors, and accused me of ruining her life. She said I was trying to control her, that I didn't trust her, and that she'd fight me in court to keep everything. Her threats were venomous. She said she'd take me for everything I had, that she'd ruin me if she could. I felt a strange mixture of relief and dread. Relief that I was finally exposing her, but dread because I knew this was just the beginning. She was willing to go to any lengths, and I wasn't sure what she'd do next. I started to realize that her bitchy attitude was just a mask, a way to cover her deeper, more manipulative side. She'd always been pretty, charming even, but underneath that, she was ruthless. I couldn't trust her anymore, and I knew I had to be prepared for whatever she threw my way. Meanwhile, I was also dealing with the emotional fallout. I kept asking myself how I hadn't seen this coming, how I'd been so blind to her lies. I replayed every moment, every sign I'd missed. The late nights, her secretive phone habits, the way she'd brush me off when I'd ask about money. It all added up now. I felt betrayed, like I'd been living in a dream that suddenly turned into a nightmare. I'd loved her, or at least I thought I did, but now I wasn't sure I knew her at all. The person I'd trusted with everything had been lying to my face. For months, maybe longer. It was a crushing realization, but I knew I had to keep fighting, because what she was trying to do was wrong and I deserved better. I owed it to myself to stand my ground, no matter how much it hurt. The legal battle was now in full swing, and every day brought new surprises. Emily was relentless. She kept trying to spin stories, manipulate the court, and turn her lies into some kind of victimhood. She was bitchy and bitter, accusing me of controlling her, of trying to ruin her life because I was insecure. She'd yell during meetings, call me names, and even threaten to drag me through the mud in court if I didn't back down. But I had enough evidence now, bank records, property deeds, her own messages, that I wasn't about to let her get away with it. I stayed calm, focused, and prepared for the fight. I also started to realize how deeply she'd been planning her escape. She'd hidden money in offshore accounts, transferred deeds into her name alone, and even opened new credit cards in my name without telling me. I found out she'd been draining our joint account slowly over months, using it to fund her secret life with Jake and to buy property in her own name. Every new discovery made my blood boil. How could she betray me like that? How could she lie so convincingly, all while secretly plotting to leave me with nothing? It felt like I'd been punched in the gut every single day. Meanwhile, Emily's attitude grew more bitchy and spiteful. She'd call me controlling, jealous, insecure, anything to make me look like the bad guy. But I knew better. I had proof, screenshots of her messages with Jake bank statements showing withdrawals, property deeds, even recordings of her threatening me if I tried to stop her. I kept all of this hidden, gathering more evidence, waiting for the right moment to strike back legally. I knew she was dangerous, capable of twisting the truth and lying her way out of anything. But I was determined not to let her win. Then, one day, she made a big mistake. She showed up at the house unexpectedly, furious and bitchy as ever. She started yelling, accusing me of cheating, controlling her, and trying to ruin her life. I calmly pulled out my phone and played her own words, screenshots of her messages, her threats, her accusations. Her face turned pale and her bitchy mask cracked for a moment. She tried to deny everything, but I just kept showing her the proof. That's when she finally snapped, screaming at me that I was a controlling, insecure bastard who didn't deserve her. She said she'd take everything, our house, our savings, the property, and leave me with nothing. That moment was a turning point. I realized she'd gone too far. She crossed every line I could imagine. I felt a strange mix of rage and sadness. Rage because she'd lied, cheated, and schemed behind my back. Sadness because I'd loved her, or at least thought I did. Now I saw her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish bitch who only cared about herself. I told her to leave. I told her I was done playing her game. I was ready to fight her in court, to protect what was mine, and to finally put an end to her lies. I knew it was going to be a long, ugly fight, but I wasn't backing down. I had the truth on my side, and that was all I needed. The court case dragged on for months. Emily's bitchy attitude didn't change. If anything, she became more aggressive, more manipulative. She tried every trick in the book, lying, twisting facts, even trying to turn friends and family against me. But I had the evidence. Every bank withdrawal, every hidden property deed, every message she thought she had covered up. I stayed calm, letting the facts speak for themselves. I knew the court could see through her lies, and I was determined to get justice. In the end, the judge saw through her manipulations. The court ordered her to return the money she had drained from our joint account, and she was forced to relinquish the property deeds she'd fraudulently transferred into her name. It was a huge relief. I finally felt like I was getting my life back. She was furious, screaming and crying in court, but it didn't matter. Justice was served, and I was finally free from her web of lies and betrayal. Looking back, I realized this experience changed me forever. I learned how dangerous it is to trust blindly, how people can hide so much beneath a pretty face, and how important it is to protect yourself. I also learned that revenge isn't about hurting someone just because they hurt you. It's about standing up for yourself, reclaiming what's rightfully yours, and making sure they can't do it again. Emily's threats to take everything in court were empty compared to the reality of what the law actually protected. I came out stronger, more cautious, but also more aware of who I am and what I deserve. Now, I'm rebuilding my life. I've moved on emotionally, though I don't think I'll ever fully forget the betrayal. I've learned that sometimes people you trust the most can turn out to be your worst enemies. But I also know I'm better off without her. The pain was real, and I won't pretend it wasn't, but I refuse to let her define me or ruin my future. If there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take away, it's this. Trust your instincts, protect your boundaries, and never let anyone take away your peace. Because in the end, your happiness and integrity are what matter most.